I didn't plan to go into town that morning, but something in me stirred, an instinct I couldn't name. The photo of the woman who looked like me had kept me up most of the night. I couldn't stop studying the way she stood, the subtle tilt of her shoulders, the softness in her eyes. I kept thinking, what if this isn't just resemblance? What if this is memory? When I woke, the lake outside my window was still, like a silver mirror laid out flat. The clouds hung low, and the scent of pine and damp earth drifted in through the old window sash. I tucked the photo in my coat pocket and left the hotel, drawn toward town like a moth to a soft, distant light. Ledgewater's main street was like something preserved in amber. A single row of antique storefronts, a bakery with hand-painted lettering on the windows, a used bookstore that smelled like oak and old stories, a diner with a tin sign that creaked in the breeze. It wasn't staged or artificial. It was simply unchanged. The kind of place where time moved slowly enough for things to linger. I stepped into a vintage boutique on the corner. A bell chimed overhead as I entered, and a woman, mid-60s, with a cascade of silver curls, looked up from a glass case full of costume jewelry. The air was perfumed with lavender and something older, the scent of lace and old cedar drawers.
Can I help you?
She asked kindly, eyeing my city coats and practical boots with a knowing smile. I think I'm looking for a dress, I said. One from the 1950s. She raised an eyebrow.
Any particular style?
I hesitated, then pulled the photograph from my pocket. I'm trying to find this one. She took the photo in both hands and stared at it for a long time. A silence stretched between us. Her gaze softened.
That looks just like someone I used to know.
She whispered.
Or maybe like someone you used to be.
I said nothing. I didn't need to. Without another word, she turned and walked into the back room. I stood still, heart tight with anticipation. Minutes passed before she returned, holding a garment bag in both hands.
I've had this for years,
she said.
Don't know why I never sold it. Just felt like it was waiting for someone.
She unzipped the bag slowly, and there it was. The dress. Pale blue, with soft pleats at the waist. Cap sleeves. A simple bow at the collarbone. The same one as in the photo. I reached out, fingers trembling slightly. The fabric was lighter than I expected. Cool. Familiar. She handed it to me with reverence.
I don't know what you're chasing, sweetheart,
she said.
But if you're going back, wear it with courage.
I left the shop in a daze. The dress draped over my arm like a secret, and I knew, somehow, with a certainty that defied reason, that I had taken one more step toward him. Charles. Wherever he was, whenever he was. He had seen me in this dress. And maybe, just maybe, he still would. I returned to the hotel before dusk. The air was cooler now, and the lake reflected a pale indigo sky, streaked with thin trails of coral and gold. Crickets were beginning to stir in the tall grass, and the old boards of the wraparound porch creaked beneath my steps like they were whispering to each other in secret. I held the dress close as I climbed the stairs to my room. Room 214. Corner suite. The one Howard had said used to be reserved for visiting performers during the summer seasons. It made sense now. This was likely where Charles had stayed, or where he had seen her, me, standing by the window, watching the lake. Maybe he had played for her in the lounge. Maybe they'd met here for midnight walks by the water. I closed the door behind me, switched on the antique lamp by the bedside, and carefully laid the dress across the mattress. The soft fabric glowed like memory. I sat down in front of the vanity mirror, an old carved walnut frame with a mottled glass pane. I brushed my hair slowly, as if each stroke helped me shed a layer of the present. My modern sweater, my practical jeans, the earrings I wore without thinking. None of it felt right anymore. Not here, not now. When I slipped into the dress, it hugged me like it had been sewn for this very moment. Not just to fit my shape, but to hold a version of me that had always been meant to wear it. And when I looked up, truly looked into the mirror, I didn't see Evelyn Monroe, music researcher from 2025. I saw someone else, someone older in spirit, someone softer, someone who had waited a very long time to be found again. There was something odd about the reflection, too. Subtle, but undeniable. The wallpaper in the mirror wasn't quite right. The rose pattern behind me. It looked cleaner, newer. The lampshade beside the bed glowed a little warmer, as though lit by an old bulb instead of LED. Even the window trim, darker wood. The curtain ruffled, but no breeze passed through the room. And then I heard something. Soft piano notes, just like before, but not from the phonograph. Live. I turned sharply toward the hallway, but everything was still. When I looked back into the mirror, my heart leapt. There, faintly, behind me in the glass, was the outline of someone. Standing in the doorway, tall, hands at his sides, not moving, not threatening, just watching. I spun around. Nothing, just the empty doorway and the sigh of old wood. But my heart was pounding now, like it recognized something my mind had yet to understand. I stared back at the mirror. The figure was gone. But the room didn't feel empty, and neither did I. The dress still held the lake's scent, soft wind and distant lilacs, even as I lay across the bed, staring at the ceiling. Something had shifted in me since stepping into it. Not just mentally, physically. I felt lighter, like I was suspended between two layers of time, thin enough to fall through. The photo remained on the bedside table, the words on the back etched into me now. Find her again. July 2nd, 1955. That date had become a gravitational pull. Everything was orbiting it. The melody, the hotel, the man in the photograph, and now, me. I sat up and retrieved my journal, flipping to the notes I'd taken from the Grand Ledge archives. I stopped at one line I'd underlined twice but hadn't truly noticed until now. Room 214, often referred to in logs as the July room. I looked around. The wallpaper, the mirror, even the lamp's curve. It had all been mentioned in anecdotes from the 50s, recounted by guests, staff, and even a woman who once said she felt strangely young again while staying here. Her interview had seemed whimsical at the time. Now, I wasn't so sure. I rose, barefoot, and walked to the window. The lake shimmered under a rising moon, just like the photo. I pressed my hand to the cool glass and whispered, "I'm here." That night, I dreamed. But it didn't feel like a dream. I was standing on the balcony just outside room 214, dressed in blue. The air smelled of evening roses and tobacco smoke. I could hear laughter below, the gentle clink of glasses, the low hum of conversation. 1955, vivid and real. Then the music began. A piano, just inside the lounge. A melody I knew in my soul before I'd ever heard it with my ears. I turned toward the sound, my feet moving before I could will them to. But I couldn't reach the stairs. The hall stretched longer with each step. The music grew louder, then softer, like a tide. And just before I woke, I saw him, standing beside the piano. Charles, looking straight at me. No photograph, no ghost. Real. And in his eyes, recognition. A sorrowful joy. A memory returning to life. I gasped awake. My heart was pounding. My dress still clung to me, slightly wrinkled from sleep. But something was different. The sounds. Faint jazz downstairs. Not from a speaker. Live. I rose and crossed to the door. On the floor outside room 214 was a folded newspaper. Dated July 2nd, 1955. My breath caught. The edges of my world began to tremble. And in that moment, between belief and disbelief, I stepped across the threshold, not into the hallway of a crumbling old hotel, but into a summer night where time had never left.